this is where the idea of the multiverse comes in.
Joe Rogan sits down with philosopher Meyer and talks about the multiverse, aliens.
But if there are alien beings on another planet, what does that do with your biblical interpretation of life?
Joe Rogan admits the only plausible way is an intelligent designer.
Which also means something intelligent.
It means something some prior fine-tuning.
But that could be also the case.
And listen to the very end where he talks about what is the purpose of humanity throughout possibly the multiverse.
I would say that the designer has a goal.
What do you think that is? But if there are alien beings on another planet, what does that do with your biblical interpretation of life? If there are far superior beings that in fact did come here and did manipulate human DNA and did create what we now think of as modern humans, if that becomes fact, and you still have to account for were they created, you still have to account for the code, you still have to account for all these things that you're saying about intelligent design, but what does that do for your interpretation of the biblical version of history if in fact there are some untold numbers of advanced civilizations?
Yeah, again, I'm completely agnostic because the Bible tells us that we were made in the image of God with capacities that reflect those of our Creator. It doesn't tell us that He didn't make other such beings on other planets. C.S. Lewis, the great Christian apologist, wrote that wonderful space trilogy in which he speculates about other planets with other forms of life, with other forms of higher conscious life.
Yeah.
Okay. Real quick, for those who want to read those books, I highly recommend them. They're awesome. Right here, Out of the Silent Planet, the sequel, Paralandria, and the third one, That Hideous Strength. They're basically like a Narnia meets aliens, meets space, meets C.S. Lewis theology. It's awesome. I'll put the links for those in the description below if you want to check out those books.
Okay. So I don't think there is a biblical doctrine on that. So I'm completely agnostic and open on biblical grounds. And as a scientist, of course, I'm interested. There's been two different lines of thinking about that. One, that there's so many universes and therefore likely solar systems that it's inevitable that we would have life someplace else. The other strain of thought that's a little bit more recent is the idea that, yes, there's lots and lots of places where it could happen, but the number of parameters that would have to be the number of things that would have to be just right and the probability of getting each of those parameters is so small that even that 2 trillion galaxy universe is not enough to render the probability of getting life somewhere else.
Can I stop you there?
Probable unless there is intelligent design.
Okay, unless there is intelligent design. But if it exists here, we have proof that it exists here. We're talking right now. You and I are here. We know intelligent life, at least in our own personal experience, exists here.
Yeah.
And the universe could be of a size and a scope that we can't even possibly comprehend. We're talking about infinity. And this is not an uncommon thought about the universe, that the universe is in fact infinite, and that it is so big that not only does this Earth exist, but a version of this Earth where all the events exactly as they've taken place on Earth have taken place in space on other planets an infinite number of times. Because because you were talking about something that's so large, it's so huge, every possible version exists. An insane, huge number of yous are out there in the world, and infinite numbers of yous presenting this exact same discussion.
Or maybe there's a me arguing for
But
panspermia.
What I'm saying is maybe it's more. It's even more complex than just simple intelligent design, but intelligent design on a scale that's so large that is happening simultaneously in so many places, so ubiquitous in the universe that it's impossible for us to even quantify.
Well, let me come back at you on this just a little bit. This is where the idea of the multiverse comes in, because it happens that our universe actually has a quantifiable number of elementary particles and a limited number of interactions that could take place between the elementary particles, and therefore an upper bound number of events that might have taken place from the Big Bang till now.
Right.
And that's why the multiverse gets proposed, because the multiverse proponents realize that what are called the probabilistic resources of this universe are not actually sufficient to render even the origin of life, and I have argued in Signature in the Cell, even the origin of a single protein probable given those probabilistic resources.
That's if there's not a multiverse.
Yeah, we need a multiverse.
And if the theory that each galaxy, which contains a supermassive black hole, that inside that supermassive black hole, if you could somehow get through the event horizon, you will go to another universe that has hundreds of billions, if not trillions, of galaxies as well. And that is the portal, and this is the process that they all have, that there is just an infinite number of universes. It is possible, right?
Right. But as I mentioned before, the plausible accounts that have been, to render the multiverse concept plausible, one needs a universe-generating mechanism. And
which also means something intelligent.
It means some prior fine-tuning.
But that could be also the case. Right.
Right.
This universal intelligent thing.
I'm not against the multiverse.
It infinite number of universes.
It might be true. It might be false. But it's only plausible if there's prior design.
Joe Rogan admits, so he believes in the multiverse. He admits the only plausible way for this to happen is with some kind of an intelligent design, infinitely designing everything at once. Because what Stephen showed here was that it's not possible for the universe to exist on its own. And then they push into that concept, kind of using all that science language, and they conclude the only plausible way is with some kind of a giant creating mechanism, an intelligent designer. Now they begin to talk about the purpose and what would be the purpose behind this. And I love this. He hears part of the gospel right here. Check this out.
That's the argument that I make in the book.
So what you think is that the universe itself has grand design to it, and that it's ultimately moving towards a goal?
I would say that the designer has a goal.
And what do you think that is?
To restore relationship between himself and human beings.
But just human beings? What about alien life forms?
Or maybe, I mean, again,
life
I
in general,
don't know. Maybe
intelligent life in general? Like, what is it? Is it the soul? Like, what do we have that's particularly unique?
In the biblical ontology, it is being made in the image of God means we not only have a mind, but also a soul and a spirit. There's a biblical word for animals, the nephesh, the Hebrew word, and they have a mind of a sort. And anyone who's a dog owner knows this. There's a lot of smart creatures, but there is something special about us, and we all, I think, understand that intuitively.
I love the natural question of all of this was, well, if it's all intelligent design, then there must be a goal, there must be a purpose. And I love what he says here in response to that. It is the answer to all. He says, well, the designer wants a relationship with us. That's why. In Romans 5, starting verse 1, it says, therefore, since we have been justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. This was his goal, was peace and a relationship with you once again. I want to jump down to verse 8 right here. It says, but God shows his love for us. Remember, Stephen said that the designer's goal was to have a relationship with us. He showed his love for us, and that while we were sinners, Christ died for us. Since, therefore, we have now been justified by his blood, much more shall we be saved by him from the wrath of God. If we were enemies, we were reconciled to God by the death of his Son. There was a gap between us and God, and he reconciled himself to us. This was the goal of the designer. And as Joe Rogan asks, is everything pointing towards a goal? And he says, yes, it's reconciliation with the designer, connection with him once again. Well, hey, there you go. According to different, even Christian scientists, the idea of the multiverse could be possible, but only if there is a God designing it all. Even Joe Rogan admits it's plausible. It would need some kind of an intelligent design. Let me know what you think about this. What do you think about the multiverse? What do you think about what this guy said? Could Jesus be a part of it? Let me know. See you next time.